Greetings, Lore Seekers, and welcome back to another episode of the Lost Archives. That's right, more Star Wars Legends lore. And today I am going to be talking about the successor to the Imperial Leviathans, the World Devastators. As you can see from the image here, it looks very much similar to the Imperial Leviathans, which was not missed by a lot of people. They were, in a sense, exactly the same sort of function. The Imperial Leviathans were giant manufactorums piloted by droid-controlled systems and could churn out war material for the Empire. However, the World Devastator lacked the one key weakness that made the Imperial Leviathans eventually obsolete. The World Devastators could upgrade themselves, they could defend themselves, and they weren't just controlled by servitor droids, they even had a droid brain controlling itself, and that would also upgrade itself as time went on. This was a weapon deployed by the resurgent Galactic Empire to try and crush the New Republic turned once again into the Rebel Alliance, at least as far as the wider galaxy was concerned by this point, as the resurgent Empire had these things on the run. Now, the World Devastator was much bigger than the Imperial Leviathans, and it could get bigger from that, eventually being able to churn out more World Devastators of their initial form. In fact, it has been said in many sources that no two fully matured World Devastators would be the same. That generally depends on what the droid brain will come across as it's planning its upgrades. But these things were so powerful they could even eat a fully working Imperial Star Destroyer, break it down into its raw materials, put it into its smelters, its molten furnaces, and reproduce it into new equipment or upgrade components for its own systems. These things were monsters on the battlefield to anyone who would come across them. Not only were they able to eat what you threw at them, but they were also nearly impervious to any assault, as its shields could resist even a sustained bombardment from even the most powerfulest of warships in the New Republic fleet. But hey, enough ore, let's actually get into the meat of the vessel. So, the vessel starts off quite small, and as it churns out resources, it will set aside said resources as well for upgrading itself, growing the vessel exponentially. It's why in most sources there is no official length given for a lot of them. Now, the engine units of the device are both repulsor lifts and ion drives, and it also has a class 6 hyperdrive. Yeah, that's right, it means this thing can move from system to system. You have no chance of running from this thing, because eventually it will come for you. Other armaments that would include on this thing, which dealt with a lot of the shortcomings and defensive inadequacies of its predecessor, is that it was equipped with both turbolasers, ion cannons, photon torpedoes, gun towers, and a hell of a lot of missile launchers. It had a complement of regular TIE LN starfighters, TIE D automated droid starfighters, and AQ-5 wave skimmers. Essentially, they were ATSTs that were adopted for wave and water-based combat. This is perhaps due to them being deployed on DACT, or as it was originally known as Mon Calamari. Other systems it would include as well as the molecular furnace, where it would break down components into the molecular structures and then repurpose the materials for other things. It also came equipped with a tractor beam projector, which is how it was able to rip things up from the surface and bring it into its maw. I do wonder if perhaps reverse engineered technology from Centrepoint Station was used in this, but that would have been limited by the vaguest amounts of knowledge they would have known about Centrepoint Station. Now, moving on, now that you know a little bit about its capabilities and its armaments, let's talk about its history. So, the World Devastator was implemented and deployed at the behest of Imperial leadership during the Resurgence era, and directed by Umak Lef, who is one of the designers who worked on the original Death Star prototype project at the Maw installation. The World Devastator was actually in the design stages during this time as well. But it is noted, especially by a lot of Stormtrooper commandos, if you've ever read A Handbook Commander's Guide, that this never got beyond the planning stages. In actuality, like a lot of projects that were being developed and perhaps test-bedded at the Maw installation, the World Devastators were being built at a secret Imperial shipyard and hidden away by the Emperor for use at a later date. Now, they didn't manage to create as many as they would have liked, but that wouldn't have mattered, because in the earlier deployment period of 10 ABY, the World Devastators were deployed around a hell of a lot of New Republic worlds in the borderland regions. In fact, there were a lot of refugees escaping to the New Republic and telling of terrible world smashers or destroyers of worlds. And it was shortly thereafterwards that the New Republic were facing down these destroyers on Dak and various other worlds in the New Republic. But they were having to deal with a lot more varying different sizes because they had already been devouring worlds, and as I previously stated, they can eventually make more of themselves. This was a massive problem for the New Republic, and it devoted entire new tactics to fighting them. Now, one very strange thing did happen in the battle of this, is that eventually the World Devastators just stopped devouring the worlds. And they were like, hang on, the Empire aren't are too arrogant to think they're just going to stop and not seize victory. Which in actual fact, there was a Jedi working behind the scenes who had infiltrated the Empire's higher command structure and had ordered all of them to stop devouring the worlds. Unfortunately, this did not include the foundries, as these were still producing various assault vehicles, including the automated starfighters and wave walkers. Thankfully, the New Republic once again developed new tactics to start fighting these awesome weapons. In fact, that Jedi agent who was involved in it was able to smuggle a lot of data to the New Republic, and eventually, just like the predecessors of the Imperial Leviathans, they were able to devise a virus that would interrupt the droid brains that controlled the ships. Unfortunately, it didn't clog up and make them explode like it did with the Imperial Leviathans. No, instead they pulled a target switching parameter on this, and so the World Devastators started targeting themselves, and eventually would eat themselves into nothing but scrap. Now, the New Republic did manage to capture one World Devastator that was busy devouring starship derelicts that it had destroyed in space. But unfortunately, and quite foolishly, the New Republic actually scrapped this one due to public outcry. Something that they would probably come to regret much later on, when a certain war happened with a species that could terraform entire planets, not giving a damn to what came before on those planets. Now, the Empire, at the time under its resurgent leader, didn't seem to really be too bothered by the loss of the World Devastator fleet. He had the specifications, he could build more, but they weren't really much of a loss at the time. All he really cared about was bringing the rebels to their knees, and it just so happened he had a more terrifying weapon on hand ready to unleash on the galaxy. The Galaxy Gun. Now, I've already done a video on that, and if you would like to see that, there's a tile in the corner for you. But no, these weapons were awesome in their power, in the fact that they could also pump out new and more interesting designs of Imperial war machines. Now, this would, in their initial cases, if they had enough resources, include medium-sized cruisers. As they got to their massive scale, they could then start to produce capital-class ships. I don't think we ever have it on record that they could ever produce a superclass dreadnought or Star Dreadnought. But, thinking about it, eventually they probably could grow up to those size given enough raw material, which would make it even more frightening, because that thing would then dwarf that Star Dreadnought. Now, it has been said that these things are worse than the Death Star. Well, in some regards, they are. The Death Star is essentially a hammer. It will crack a planet and it will turn it into debris. It's not really much you can do with that. You might be able to carry out some mining on the world, but then you have to set that up. Where the World Devastators could quite literally tear that planet apart and instantly reproduce equipment, materiel and ships from that destroyed planet, and immediately straight from the assembly line send it out to fight. The Death Star may have been the hammer. The World Devastators would be the multi-tool of the Star Wars superweapons, able to use a multiple of tools to its advantage to deal with a varying amount of situations. Anything from a small city to an entire planet, and eventually perhaps even a solar system. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Perhaps if I've missed anything you can include it as well. And as always, you will find my sources down in the description below. That being said, take care, have a good day, and may the Lore Keepers ever be in your favour.